So, Mr. Ellis, tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, I'm English, as you might be able to tell. I was brought up in a small town just north of London, in the south of England. Grew up in the late 50s, mid to late 50s, listening to rock and roll. Fan of Little Richard and Fats Domino and Jerry Lee Lewis, and thought Elvis was God. Went to college in the north of England, a place called Newcastle upon Tyne, which is a shipbuilding centre, a city about the size of Cincinnati, Ohio. Went kind of nuts in my first year at college. A lot of beer, a lot of girls, and a little bit of study. And in my second year, decided that I really ought to get serious and get the benefit of my time at college. So I offered my services to the Students' Union to do whatever they would like me to do, and they asked me to organize pop shows. And they never had pop groups at the university then, but this is '63. Beatlemania was at its height in the UK, so people were very into the idea of pop groups. So the students wanted pop groups, and they asked me if I could organize that. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. I booked a local band. My first two shows, a band called the Alan Price Rhythm and Blues Combo, who after my second show, they left Newcastle, went to London, changed the name to the Animals, and had some success. I went on, so I had a pretty good start. So I went on and booked bands for that year, had a very successful year, mostly booked blues bands, English bands playing American blues, and met a lot of really interesting musicians during that time. Had a great little band from Birmingham called Jimmy Powell and the Five Dimensions. He had a harmonica player called Rod Stewart. Another really good blues band, a guy called Graham Bond. It's called the Graham Bond Organization. He's a great blues singer. He had his bass player was Jack Bruce. His drummer was Ginger Baker, who went on to join up with Eric Clapton and Cream. So I had a great year. I really fell in love with the music business, and when I graduated, I started a booking agency with the Animals manager, who was also by this time manager Jimi Hendrix. I had a very difficult time. I had a lot of youthful enthusiasm, and pretty soon worked out that in the competitive world of professional music, youthful enthusiasm was not enough. So basically, my business was a failure. I just couldn't get work for my bands. I didn't have enough power and enough contacts. And I had to give it up after a year. I was pretty unhappy about that. In fact, I was heartbroken. And I was so ashamed of myself that I actually contemplated emigrating to Australia. But I have friends who said, if this is really something you want to do, you should keep trying. So I got a job. I had a computer background, so I got a job as a systems analyst in the computer department in a small light engineering firm, and started a part-time business booking bands into colleges, which is what I knew, and I was able to establish a business on a part-time basis, which at the end of the year I was making enough money to give up my day job, which was just as well, because they were getting ready to fire me because I was spending more of my time on my part-time business during my day job than they liked. So then I left. I went full-time as a college booking agent. I had a competitor in the north of England called Chris Wright. We met, decided that we wanted to merge our businesses and get serious. And so we merged. We became very quickly the most the biggest college booking agency in England, which gave me the one thing I hadn't had in my original business. I had some power, because we booked so many colleges, we could give a lot of work to bands. And so we began to attract bands coming to us saying, you have all these colleges, you can give us work, so why don't you just represent us? So I was representing a lot of small bands.
As a manager or as an agent?
As an agent.
Okay.
As an agent. You know, we were able to give work to bands as an agent. And we had a lot of little blues bands, some of whom became very big blues bands later, but we got our breakthrough because a manager called Peter Grant just walked in the office one day and just said, I've heard about you guys, you're really good young agents, you've got a lot of work. I have an artist called Jeff Beck, who was already a rock god. Jeff Beck probably still is, I think, the best rock guitarist in the world. He had been with the Yardbirds and left the Yardbirds, put together a really great little band. His bass player was Ron Wood, who's now with the Rolling Stones, and his singer was Rod Stewart. And then Peter Grant subsequently brought another band to us. The Yardbirds had broken up, and the singer and the guitar player wanted to carry on, so put a new group together, called it the New Yardbirds. And Peter brought the New Yardbirds to us to represent. And the New Yardbirds quickly became Led Zeppelin. So it was a young agency, and all of a sudden we were representing the biggest rock band in the world. And we were just a couple of kids out of college. Well, we built up the booking agency, and then started to manage. We were managing 10 years after in Jethro Tull. We had made a record deal for 10 years after with Decca, which was a major record company in England, who really did a really bad job for us. And so when it came to Jethro Tull, we decided that we couldn't possibly do a worse job than the major company, so we might as well do it ourselves. So we started a record company, called it Chrysalis. Jethro Tull was the first artist, and then we grew that and put the artists that we managed on it, and then we wanted to sign artists that we didn't manage, and that became a little bit difficult because people didn't want to sign with a company that didn't know how to have an American office. So we decided to open an American company, and we made a deal with Warner Brothers to distribute the Chrysalis label in America. We did that in '72. In 1974, I moved to Los Angeles to run the company, and in '76 we took the company away from Warner Brothers and went totally independent in the United States, distributing through a chain of independent distributors throughout the US. And then we began to have a lot of success. In 1977, I signed Blondie. 1979, Billy Idol. 1982, Pat Benatar. 1984, Huey Lewis. So by 1985, we became one of the most successful independently owned record companies in the world. And that's my story.